Well, hey there, guys. Greetings. A most heartfelt of salutations, and welcome to the Love Dojo here on the John Campea YouTube channel and a little show we call Open Mic. I have no idea why I just said that. The show where the mic is open, the floor is yours, the love is free, and we are here to talk about all the things that you guys want to discuss here about any and all of those things. Mostly just movies and movie news, stuff like that. It's good to have you guys here. Not so much Love Dojos. My name is John Campea. It's going to be one of those days, guys. It's good to have you here. Ray Orr's joining us.
No, it's not. Not for me and Jonathan.
Jonathan Voico is also here.
Hey, all right.
And most importantly, you guys are here. It is such a great privilege to have you guys here joining us as we do a little bit of open mic here. Now, there's two different ways that you can get a topic or question for us to address on the show. The first one is if you're not watching one of the 23 hours of the day that we're not streaming live, or that is when you are watching this, you can just use our tip link. Go onto your web browser, go to www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip, and you can send in your question or comment there. Or if you are watching live right now, like Shiggy and Jurgen and Amir and so many people in the live chat there, you can go ahead and use the super chat feature and send in a question that way. And as long as your topic or question is appropriate to be read on our show, like free love and all that kind of stuff, then we will address your question on our show. That's what we're going to do. Now, before we get started into the question, I've been getting a lot of emails and calls in on the Mint Mobile hotline that we have, asking about some form or variation of what does Marvel need to do to get back on track? What does Marvel need to do to right the ship? What does Marvel need to do to correct the mistakes and get the ship righted? Because I think no matter how big of a Marvel fan you are, I think we can all agree
the Quantumania was awesome.
That Quantumania was the defining movie of human existence. But I think we can all agree that lately Marvel has not been, and to put it diplomatically, as good as it was. We had a 10 to 12 year stretch there where just about everything Marvel put out was a gangbusters blockbuster, right? Just dominant win after dominant win after $1 billion film after $1 billion film. And if not $1 billion, then $800 million or something like that. And it was something that was created that was incredibly special, probably is never going to be replicated again. Like even if James Gunn does a dynamite job with DC, it's going to be its own unique success. It won't be like that. I mean, that's something the likes of which Hollywood has never seen and maybe we'll never see again. But I think we can also agree that in the last couple of years, that has changed. It's eroded a bit. It's dipped in quality. They still put out the odd killer like WandaVision or Ms. Marvel, Shang-Chi, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But then they also put out a lot of mediocre, pretty good stuff like Loki, like Falcon the Winter Soldier, stuff like that. And then they put out some straight up bad stuff. She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. It's just not what it was. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people about, well, what is it they need to do? What has to happen here at Marvel for them to right the ship? Now, all of us are going to have different opinions about this, about what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. Maybe it's too late. I contend that it is not too late. Marvel can easily turn this thing around. Well, maybe not easily. But there's going to be 5 things that I'm going to recommend here, okay? These are the 5 things that I suggest Marvel needs to do to right the ship, all right? Number 1, and this is in no particular order, reduce the amount of content. This is one we've been talking about a lot lately, and one of the biggest, clearest, obvious things that they need to do. Bob Iger, currently returned CEO of Disney, has affirmed this himself, saying that, look, they just started making so much content that it diluted the property. It diluted the content. And he was right. It really has. I think we all agree. I mean, it used to be at Marvel, and we've talked about this before, but it used to be at Marvel that Kevin Feige, as one very capable individual, had his hands directly on every single Marvel project that was happening and developing. I've joked before, but it's true. There is no studio that has more studio interference than Marvel. Marvel is the ultimate example of a studio that heavily interferes in the movies, but that's what they needed. That's what it needed. Kevin Feige, as the studio, was directly hands-on, guiding hand, ship involved with every single Marvel project they did. And the result of that was a high quality, hugely successful, very cohesive cinematic universe that became one of the most successful things in the history of Hollywood. But as they started to increase the number of projects, Ray pointed this out the other day, that in 1 2-year span, they put out 12 projects. That's insane. And it's gotten to the point that Kevin Feige, there's just projects he has nothing to do with.
Mm-hmm.
Things feel completely disconnected from each other now.
I'm surprised we got anything good with
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I mean, come on.
It's true. Because, well, look, and I've said this before, when you're making 3 projects, right? You're going out there, you're hiring the 3 best, most perfectly suited directors that you can find, the 3 best, most perfectly suited sets of writers that you can find, the best sets of producers you find to assign to it, the best crews, all that kind of stuff. Okay, now turn that 3 into 8. And now you got 8. All of a sudden, you got 5 new directors that last year you wouldn't have hired. You wouldn't have hired these 5 directors before.
And I noticed something when you were naming off your list of all the good stuff that's come out. Other than Guardians 3, a lot of those were a long time ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Shang-Chi's
So it's
been a
like-
while ago.
I think the Marvels is the only one they have left, right? That's not in the works, or even as in Disney Plus shows. There's nothing after Secret Invasion yet, right? They haven't announced
Loki
any.
season 2
Yeah,
is
there's
coming out.
Loki. So we got Marvels and Loki, but after that, we don't really have like a schedule anymore, right?
I can't remember. I honestly
There's
can't
a
remember.
schedule, but I mean, it's we still have Agatha on the way, and
yeah, but we
I
don't
know
got
if-
trailers or anything. But I think the Marvels and Loki will probably be the last of this set of non-Iger,
Iger era projects.
Yeah,
Well,
like-
Yeah.
there are some other things were already underway. Like Agatha was already underway.
Daredevil was already
production.
underway.
There are a few things, but yeah, it's going to still be a while before we see the effects. But the bottom line is they need to reduce the amount of content that they're doing. They need to get back to working only with their best directors, or at least best suited directors, only with their best writers, only with their best producers, and let Kevin Feige get a controlling hand over everything again. So that's the first thing. And Bob Iger said that's what they're going to do. So that's one thing that they are going to do. All right. The second thing they need to do on this is focus on character stories. Now, what do I mean by that? When you go back to some of the golden Marvel MCU films, first and foremost, their movies were about the character. Let's go back to Captain America, the First Avenger, right? Yes, there's the Red Skull. Yes, there's the Tesseract. Yes, there's all that kind of stuff, but you could watch any 15-minute chunk of that movie, and that movie was clearly about Steve Rogers and his character, his personality, his development, his transition from, the great-hearted, too skinny kid to the iconic Captain America and all that kind of stuff. It focused on character. I would make an argument that the first Iron Man, same thing. Yeah, you had Warmonger and you had all the, the introduction, at least of the concept of the 10 rings and all that was there. But it was a story about Tony Stark and him as a person and him as he developed. Hell, I'll even say when you get into something like Captain America Civil War, at the heart of that was about Steve and Bucky. That was about their history, their relationship. Yes, there was a bigger story going on, but they focused on the characters. I think it's Rob that says all the times, characters make great stories. He's right. Characters make great stories. One of the things that I would point to then, you get into something like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It wasn't about the characters, right? It really wasn't. It was about the quantum realm. It was about the escape from the quantum realm. And to a degree, it was about Kang, but really more as a threat, as a conceptual threat than more as a character. And I think that's just one of the things. It's not the only thing, but I think the idea of them getting back to telling character-focused stories is going to be key for them. All right. Speaking of which, number 3 is kind of connected to that, which is develop 4 to 5 core characters. One of the hallmarks of the MCU in the first few stages, or phases, I should say, was when I would say to you Avengers, you stop any average person in the street, say Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers, what do you think? You think Captain America. You think Iron Man. You think Hulk. You think Thor. If we keep pushing people on it, maybe they'll say Hawkeye, maybe they'll say Black Widow, but you had at the center of that cinematic universe, a universe that continued to grow and expand even through the end of phase 3. You had your core face of the franchise. You had your core heart and soul of the franchise. Right now, the last number of years, ever since Endgame, the Marvel doesn't have that. The Marvel Cinematic Universe simply does not have that. There is no character even in line right now to be the face of the franchise. There's no even set of 2 characters that are lined up to be the heart and soul of the franchise. You remember in the last point I said, you got to focus on character stories? Well, the cinematic universe itself, the MCU used to be character-centric. Not individual movies, but as a whole. It was Iron Man, it was Captain America, it was Thor, all that kind of stuff. Now, nobody, you bring up the conversation. Who's the heart and soul of the MCU right now? Everybody's going to give a different answer because they don't have that personal identity to it like they used to have, and I think that's been a problem. So, number 1, I would say is reduce the amount of content. Number 2, focus on character stories. Number 3, develop 4 to 5 core characters. Number 4 is going to be one not everybody's going to agree with me on, and that's fine. But get rid of the multiverse. Get rid of the multiverse. This has been a bust of an idea. I mean, you can make an argument, Spider-Man No Way Home, they used multiverse to do something really fun. I concede that. I agree with that. I super enjoy that movie. I think that movie's great. But this whole notion of multiverse has added to the dispersion of the cinematic universe as a whole, which is going to lead into point 5 in a second. But multiverse means you got all these things going on. First of all, there's no consistency amongst ideas of even what multiverse is. Like from movie to movie, multiverse is kind of a slightly different thing and all this kind of stuff. Even in the wonderful show Ms. Marvel, they sort of introduced a concept of another different dimension sort of thing that was not consistent with the idea of dimensions from Spider-Man No Way Home, which is not consistent with the concept of different dimensions and realities from Doctor Strange. And it's created a consequence-free set of storytelling where nothing matters. We've even heard some MCU actors say this. Nothing matters because multiverse, right? No consequences.
Was it just coincidence that they introduced the multiverse when Bob Chapek upped their quota of pumping stuff out? I mean, did it work? Did it work in such like a weird coincidental way?
It did, but we can't blame multiverse on Bob Chapek.
I know that.
That was not Bob Chapek's call.
Yeah,
I mean that was
absolutely.
a decision that was put into motion before Bob Chapek became CEO. So I love blaming things on Bob Chapek.
No,
Can't blame
it's
this
not
one
that.
on.
I just find it funny that the multiverse saga started around the same time.
Well,
where
I mean,
Bob Chapek's like, throw anything, whatever, give us 18 things in 2 years.
No, not anything. He's like, give us 18 things. It was a series. It was a perfect storm of bad decision, all kind of happening at once, right? And so there was that. So I would say, and again, I acknowledge there are going to be people who disagree with me this, but get rid of multiverse. But this 5th point, I think most people will agree with. Increase the amount of in-universe awareness. Increase the amount of in-universe awareness. What do I mean by in-universe awareness? I'm not even necessarily talking about tying all the movies together, right? One of the big criticisms I hear about the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now is like, we don't even see what the overall story is. How are these movies all tied together, right? I'm not even talking about that because to me, that's a secondary thing. A good movie is a good movie, whether it's tied into something else or not. You take a movie, you take something like She-Hulk, right? You take She-Hulk, the Disney Plus series, and you completely tie it into the events of, I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It doesn't make She-Hulk any better. She-Hulk was still bad, right? So I'm not talking about tying them all together, but something feels really off in this universe when it doesn't even feel like anything going on in one movie is even aware of the characters or global shaking events in the other stories being told. A great example for that is this guy. Bring him in. Arshem the Judge, ladies and gentlemen. I know I go back to this one a lot, but this is just a good example of this. This is going on all over the MCU the last couple of years. But freaking Arshem the Judge shows up at the end of Eternals. This giant planet-sized head appears over Earth looking down at its beings, casting an eclipse over the planet as everybody's like, ah! And he says, I shall return to judge. Okay, that's pretty eerie. Mm-hmm. I'd say that's worth a conversation around the water cooler tomorrow morning. Never mentioned.
Yeah, and you know what I find just problematic is that we had our main Avengers, right, from all these phases, like the Captain America, Iron Man, but then we had those like guys in the background where we all thought some of them are gonna go into the next Avengers, right? Some of them could be possible when the main core all leave, like Tony Stark, Steve Rogers. Two of those characters were War Machine and Bucky. I really wanted them to be in the next Avengers team. But
War Machine was. He did.
Yeah, but what they did with them afterwards, I don't even care about Bucky anymore.
Well, Bucky could never be an Avenger, right?
Yeah, but
he
still,
spent decades
so cool,
assassinating people.
Yeah, and then War Machine.
War Machine, yeah, they could have done. Well, War Machine's supposed to really be getting his own centric show with what's it called again?
Iron Wars.
Iron Wars, right? That was going to be shown. Now it's going to be a movie. So he's going to get his due and all that kind of stuff. But again, like with the absolute lack of in-universe awareness doesn't even make it feel like a cinematic universe anymore. I mean, they did the little thing of like Wong showing up here and there. Okay, that's a good thing. Like Wong showing up is a cool little thread to connect some things, but it had to be one piece of 5 or 6 or 7 pieces, right? But instead it was just Wong. So you've got these global catastrophe kind of events happening. And other than, I haven't seen any movie even reference, except for maybe an Easter egg in a newspaper print in the background, that a giant titan started coming out of one of the oceans and turned into stone and is now just sitting there. Like that's not the end of the argument. That's just an example of the fact that all these things go on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and there's never even reference to what's going on. Secret Invasion just referenced something, but it was back from the old phase. They just referenced the events of Endgame. Great, but no acknowledgement or reference to what's going on in the universe. And again, I'm not saying tie everything together, but at least give a sense that there's an in-universe awareness. So once again, the 5 things that I think, and there's many more they need to do, but the really core 5 things that I think that Marvel needs to do to right the ship is, number 1, reduce the amount of content that they're creating. Number 2, focus on character stories first. 4, develop 4 to 5 core identifiable characters as the heart and soul of the new MCU. Number 4, get rid of the multiverse. And number 5, increase the amount of in-universe awareness. Those are the things that I would say. Do you guys have any additional things that you throw in there?
No, I'm just ready for the next phase under the Iger.
I do think that what we're going to find out with the multiverse is that it's collapsing on itself, and that with all these incursions, we're going to lose it either way, because it's going to come into one.
Yeah, Secret Wars is going to be that.
The problem is that, and there was even the argument in phase 1 and more so in phase 2 when people were like, this doesn't even tie into anything. It doesn't tie into anything. And now people with hindsight are like, well, that perfectly tied in and we knew it all the time. No, we had discussions at AMC Movie Talk how we didn't even know how this stuff was tying in. And it was the same arguments. The problem is that they exploded this universe so much that you can kind of use that argument now, because you don't know what's in what universe, what's going on here. Why isn't this, like you said, why aren't they talking about this giant, thing coming out of the ocean? So they are, but I think they will start to compress it, but they better get on it fast.
Because we are we're ways into it now, right? We're
It's-
more than 1 or 2 movies into this
they
thing now.
frustrated their audience.
And
now.
I really hope they're able to. The question is for you guys, chat amongst yourselves down there about what things do you think Marvel needs to do? What do you think they need to do to right this ship? And maybe we'll get to that in the question part of the show. Speaking of which, let's do that now. Let's get to the reason why we're here, which is to take your comments and questions. We're going to start off with people who sent in questions via the tip link. So, Jonathan, let's get started. What do we got at first?
JM none other writes, hot take, I believe Snyder Cut is better than Avengers 1 and 2. One more thing on LED screens. The ones we have, it's multiple panels, one panel, 4 screens. But together, say a panel screen is faulty down the line, you just swap it with a new one. Swap out the one panel screen with a new one. One panel screen to replace once it's all up only costs around $20. Oh, wow. I know it'd be a big investment for movies and unrealistic, but it's cheaper than getting a new projector, bulbs, and projectors.
Well, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that you think the Snyder Cut's as good as Avengers 1 and 2. Good for you. That's the beautiful thing about movies, is that they're all subjective about that. I will never get over that damn Aquaman scene. It's the weird sort of orgy prelude as they're singing him into the ocean. I'm like, what the fuck is actually going on here? Anyway, I thought the HBO version of Snyder Cut was a better version of the movie. I didn't think it was that great, but that's the beautiful thing about film, is it is subjective, and every film hits us in different ways. If it hit you that good, that's an awesome thing. Regarding the screens, though, yeah, a movie theater can't do 4 panel screens. Like, if you're going to do a movie theater, it has to be a 1 panel, 1 screen. That's what it would have to be. You can't get 4 sections to put it together to make it 1 screen. That won't cut it. And that adds, every inch then becomes exponential additional costs. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing for an individual facility. Fantastic. I'm sure it looks glorious. But for a movie theater with, say, that has 6,000 screens it needs to replace some, that would be very, very, very difficult and pretty cost prohibitive. All right, what's next?
Right, we've got JM who writes, since day one, I always took James Gunn's Blue Beetle comments to be, Blue Beetle is your first glimpse into the new DCU, but Superman Legacy is the first DC Studios produced movie in this new DCU. The first DC Studios produced item will be Creature Commandos on Max.
I don't think in any way, shape, or form is this Blue Beetle part of the new DCU.
Plus, they reference Man of Steel.
Yeah. So this is a movie that clearly takes place in the old DCEU, right? We talked about that the other day, about how the director of Blue Beetle mentioned that there is going to be a reference to the events of Man of Steel in it. So this is a movie that clearly takes place in the DCEU. I don't know exactly what James Gunn was talking about when he said, Blue Beetle is the this, but Superman Legacy is the actual start of it. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he means by that, but I don't believe, not that James Gunn has called me and told me this. This is just me as an individual fan, just like you, saying, I don't believe for 1 second that this Blue Beetle, which I'm very excited about watching in 2 days, I don't believe for a second that this Blue Beetle or anything about this Blue Beetle movie is going to be a part of the new DCU. Well, we'll find out, though, in 2 days, 48 hours.
Oh, that's right, man. I forgot.
Yeah, and whatever James Gunn said, I wouldn't let it affect your viewing of the movie if you're going to go see it. What I'm hearing is not what James Gunn said. It's all the reviews that people are talking about this movie. They're saying it's pretty good. So
the reviews have been great.
So I'm excited. So, like, if it just becomes a one-off, let's have a good movie as a one-off then.
All right, what's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond writes, found a show on Amazon for great fun, Crawd Mandoon and the Flaming Sword of Fire from 2009. I remember hearing about that. Kevin Hart, British comedian, actor, Matt Lucas, and the beautiful India de Beaufort with Sean Maguire as Crawd, and this 5-episode, half-hour Comedy Central original.
I have never even heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it for sure. It's like a spoof.
But you know what that reminds me of? Didn't they do, I think it only lasted 1 season, like a story of some He-Man-like space barbarian? It was animated, but he had a regular family on Earth, and it was super violent, and it was voiced by one of the guys from Saturday Night Live. Anybody in the live chat that knows what I'm talking about.
Was it animated?
Yes.
Thor, Thundar, or not Thundar. It was Zork.
So I can't remember. Guy, Zom? Some people are saying Zom. And I don't recognize the names on it, but they're saying it was on
the son of something, the son of Zorn.
Son of Zor. Anyway, yeah, nobody in the live chat seems to have any idea what we're talking about. So we'll move on from that. All right, what's next?
Min looks.
It's Son of Zorn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? He was like of Conan the Barbarian. It was like a comedy.
Yeah. Son of Zorn.
Yeah, I remember I really liked it, but then it just kind of quietly died.
Yeah, I did too. Now that I look at it, because it was part live action, part cartoon, right?
Part live action.
Yeah, because look at remember
You're pointing at a screen I can't see.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, look at.
But it was an animated. The guy was animated, but
he goes to a therapist, or he has a human wife.
Yeah,
he has a
son,
human
right?
live action wife.
Yeah, that's right. Something along those lines. All right, what's next?
Son of Zorn.
Yeah. Min writes, looking at the current movie schedule, there are currently no big films from the end of September. Paw Patrol, woo, they get their superpowers to the end of October. Five Nights at Freddy's. Do you see super or studio shifting release schedule to capitalize on gap, or will strike increase the gap?
No, at this point, it's too late to move a movie. Like, we're already in August. It's too late to move a movie up into that window. You'd have to completely ramp up a $100 million marketing campaign to make the awareness be there that, oh, by the way, this movie's coming out now instead. It's not practical for them to do it. So no, I don't think anybody's going to do that. I think moving into the future, though, we talked about this a bit yesterday. I think you're going to start seeing studios take advantage of January release dates, September release dates, traditionally barren wastelands. But I think studios are starting to realize, outside of Christmas and summertime, which are obviously the biggest time to put out your movies, every other month is equal, really. And the perception that they're kind of, February used to be looked at as the place where bad movies go to die. But I think that perception's changing. So we'll see what happens in the coming years.
And I was looking at the release calendar. This is the first time I remember, like, I'm more excited for either streaming movie like releases or limited releases, like The Haunting on Queen Mary or something like that. It's like a limited release. There's nothing major coming out that I'm excited for other than what we're going to see this week.
Right. All right, what's next?
Alfie writes, hi, John. Thanks to you, I decided to rewatch Guardians of the Galaxy on Disney Plus. And holy crap, was I just seeing things or did they add them? But I swear I see Rhodey and Nebula in that same scene. We see Endgame. Did you see them too? Well, they wouldn't have done that originally. I mean,
I have no idea what we're talking about.
He's trying to say that there was a scene, if they added any scenes to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
The original, when he's dancing, the opening scene, do you see Rhodey and Nebula there because they were there in Endgame?
Oh, right. Okay, I got you.
I'd have to rewatch. I don't want to say no outright, but I'd have to rewatch it, but I doubt it.
That'd be cool if
that would be
there.
Very cool if they did that.
We can hop on Disney
I
Plus
don't recall
after this.
seeing that, but now I'm going to have to go home and look for it.
That'd be actually pretty awesome.
Now I'm going to have to go look for it. All right, what's next?
All right, Einstein is jealous, writes, hey, John and crew, I heard last week that Sixto Rodriguez, one of my top music talent revelations has died at the age of 81. Highly recommend watching Oscar winner Searching for Sugar Men. The story is incredible, and Rodriguez is truly a treasure.
Was the movie about him, or
maybe he scored it,
or maybe he scored it? Mm-hmm. I'm going to confess to you, I'm not familiar.
I've heard of Searching for Sugar Man.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I believe, but I'm not familiar with the story we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But that's always sad to hear when somebody that you really respect and admire their art and they pass away. So sorry to hear about that, man. All right, what's next?
Emily writes, hey John, it's my first time writing into the show.
Oh, thank you, Emily.
Could you rank I don't know if you'll get a great answer here, but could you rank the Twilight movies from most to least favorite? I personally think those movies were a cultural reset. New Moon is my favorite. I'd love to hear what you think. Keep it nasty.
I am unlike most guys, where most guys, the default is say, Twilight, that sucked. Nobody's supposed to like Twilight.
Twilight, boy.
And look, I'm not going to be facetious. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not the biggest fan of Twilight, all right? But that being said, when the first movie came out, well, I think the movie's pretty bad, but I remember watching it and I was kind of intrigued by the notion that they took standard mythology and twisted it a little. Like, I thought it was pretty interesting that they took standard vampire mythos and changed it up. Vampires don't burst into flame in the sun, but they're revealed. certain things in the pigmentation of their skin will start to shimmer and shine. That reveals them as vampires. That there's some standard vampire abilities, but every vampire has their own unique power, almost like X-Men in a way, right? Every vampire had their own unique ability. The idea of this one vampire, who I can't remember the name of the patriarch of the family was, deciding that vampires can live a different way, a non-murderous way, and starts over the centuries gathering a family together that moves around. And like, there were concepts in Twilight that were actually, and I don't care what anybody says, there were concepts in Twilight that were actually really interesting. Now, do I think they executed it well? No. Do I think they're particularly good movies? No. But I thought that was interesting. But I also say this, the last Twilight movie, I got a kick out of. I got a kick out of the finale. Again, do I think that movie was great? No, but I got a bit of a kick out of it. So mark me up. Other than that, I can't really rank them because just in general, I'm not a fan of the series. But even though I'm not a fan of the series, they had a couple of things going for them that I thought they did that were fairly interesting. All right, what's next?
The Murdoch Mystery Ride. Which Studios 2023 movies have had the best track record for you so far in terms of quality enjoyment? For me, it's probably Paramount with Dungeons and Dragons, Dead Reckoning, Rise of the Beasts, and TMNT. WB, Disney, Universal, and Sony probably have some of my favorite singular movies of 23, but also have some megalodoodoo alongside them, in my opinion. Shark emoji, thanks for all you do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Disney had, two terrific films with Elemental and Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh, yeah.
They also had a not so terrific Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Warner Brothers, obviously Barbie was great. Universal with Oppenheimer. There have been some good ones, but you know what? I think I might have to agree with you about Paramount on a purely consistent note. Let's bring up that list again, because just the fact that they did Dead Reckoning, it was great.
I liked all those movies.
Rise of the Beast was enjoyable.
Yeah,
I liked Rise of the
But
Beast.
TMNT and
TMNT was
great.
surprisingly good. But for me, Dungeons and Dragons was the big pleasant surprise for me. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think I'm gonna have to give that crown right now to Paramount.
Paramount, it's hidden. Even last year too, they had
But they're also having some big flops.
Yeah,
right?
But you know what? You swing big. Sometimes you.
All right, what's next?
Cody Hunt Films writes, the entertainment industry peaked at cable with VOD. You'd have your cable package with content from multiple networks, but you were able to stream your movies and shows in a separate menu. Corporations got greedy and sought to create platforms for their own exclusive content. With their subscriber numbers now becoming stagnant and the onus falls on the consumer, as well as the creatives based on their own doing, thus bundling is just the new cable. Streaming is a failed experiment.
No, it's not. Streaming is not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that they thought it was going to be. But the success of Netflix, now granted, it took Netflix well over a decade of losing billions of dollars a year to get to the point where they are now, where they are actually profitable now. But they are profitable. They're making money. And what we have now is a landscape. See, the system of streaming offers the opportunity for some really great, interesting content to get developed and made that never would have been made under the old regime. Never would have been made under the old model. Right? I mean, under the old cable, we never had stuff like shows like House of the Dragon coming out, while shows like Last of Us are coming out, while shows like Yellowstone are coming out, while shows like Star Trek Strange New Worlds are coming out, while shows like Lioness, the one with Zoe Saldana, is coming out, where shows like Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad was done under the old AMC model, but I mean, it's really created a new opportunity. The problem is they had the wrong way of looking at this new medium of theirs, this new system, this new reality of stream. They looked at it the wrong way, but all the potential is still there for it. The old cable model, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to look back and suddenly think, oh, it was actually really great back then. No, I hated the old cable model. I hated it. It's why I was one of the first cable cutters. I cut cable well over a decade ago. Well over a decade ago. I got rid of cable. I just could not wait to get rid of that. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible system. I mean, in my opinion, at any rate, streaming has its issues, but streaming is infinitesimally young. It's so brand new. Everybody's still kind of figuring out, but the potential is there, even though they've made some mistakes, Cody, as you pointed out. All right, what's next?
Joe Adonis T writes, "Hi, John and Ray. John, like you, I also rewatched Suits. Did you know that there was a spin-off series called Pearson? It only lasted one season. If you were in charge, which character would you spin off from Suits?"
I wouldn't do any spin-offs because honestly, what made Suits great to me was the chemistry of the characters. It's the chemistry of the characters. I don't know that I would watch a Harvey spin-off show. I don't know that I would watch a Mike spin-off show. I don't know that I would watch a Donna. Well, I might watch a Donna spin-off show, but I'm not sure I would watch a Donna spin-off show or a Lewis spin-off show or anything like that. I think what really made it work, and I think Pearson probably proved it, was that what made Suits work was this incredible chemistry. And I'll tell you what, I kind of quit on the show. I was going to stop watching the last couple of seasons when Mike left, because Mike is not the only piece of the puzzle, but he was an important piece of the puzzle. The chemistry was different when Mike left the show. So it's like, I think they all needed to be there. And if they do, which there are whispers about them doing a revival series of Suits, they got to get everybody back. Now, I don't know if you can get Princess Markle or whatever her name is now.
Well, you had a spin-off too, Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, Harry and Meghan, that was a spin-off,
show.
yeah. But I'll be honest with you, out of all of them that you don't really have to have, she's probably the one you don't have to have. And by the way, that's not a knock on her as an actress. That's just like the character, the way the character was written. I think you can get by without that character being there. But everybody else, you got to get Harvey back. You got to get Donna back. You got to get Mike back. You got to get Lewis back. You got to get all those core pieces back. And if you do, it could probably work. All right, what's next?
Right. Kayak writes, the first time I first met HelloFresh when I worked for a logistics company, and they were our customers. At almost exact same point in time I found your AMC Movie Talk, little did I know that they would become your sponsor, and I'd be still enjoying your shows years later.
It is, I gotta tell you, I've got some great sponsor stories, but I mean, we just recently got an inquiry for a sponsorship of the show, which is great because it's a service I've actually used a lot and talked to you guys about. And that's always a kick for me. The biggest one, of course, for me was being a huge fan. My favorite movie star. I'm not saying he's the best actor in the world, but I'm saying he's my favorite movie star. For me, the biggest, interconnection of that stuff was when my favorite movie star, Ryan Reynolds, his company, Mint Mobile, became one of the main sponsors of our show. That was a huge moment for me. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, I still have the mentality of, because I still think back when I was getting going and like doing the movie blog in my living room, in my 1-bedroom apartment in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, downtown on Mary Street. That the notion that someday some of my favorite directors would out of nowhere text me something, or one of my favorite movie stars would become one of the sponsors of my show, or I would live in Los Angeles, or that I would get to frickin' interview Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy. We talked about that on the show earlier today. It's still wild to me. It's still absolutely wild to me that I get to live in this world. It's really strange. It's sometimes awkwardly strange when I get one of those messages from somebody who made a movie I really didn't like and they'd like to talk to me about it. Yeah, that one's more awkward, but it's still kind of crazy the way these worlds interconnect. And as I get closer now to the end of my career, I still have that incredible sense of awe and wonder that I'm just some fucking nobody kid who in a spare bedroom started something up to talk about the movies that I love. And in some very weird, abstract 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of way, I'm kind of connected to that world now. It's really, it's pretty awesome. Actually, I kind of love it. Anyway. All right. On that note, we're going to take a second here. We'll get back to the questions, but we're going to take just a moment here and thank a couple of the sponsors of today's episode, our friends at Rocket Money and MasterClass. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money. Did you know that the average person has around 12 paid subscriptions and they might not even remember to subscribing to half of those? If you have no idea just how much you're spending each month, you need Rocket Money. It's this great app that tracks all of your expenses so you know exactly where your money is going. I recently just found out that over 80% of people have subscriptions that they've completely forgotten about. Seriously, think about how many free trials you subscribe to that you just probably never canceled. And that's why I'm such a big fan of Rocket Money, because I was one of those people. When I signed up to Rocket Money, I was stunned to find out that a gym I had belonged to in another city I lived in, I had still been paying my dues to for over 2 years. Also, that music subscription service I use, I forgot I was subscribed to 2 other ones. That's where Rocket Money comes in, because Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. With over 3 million users and counting, Rocket Money customers have saved on average of $720 a year. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. With MasterClass, you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. An annual membership starts at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. So guys, get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as a John Campea Show listener, you can get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/Campea. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off an annual membership. masterclass.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money and MasterClass for sponsoring this episode. All right, guys, let's get back to your questions, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up next?
Joe Adonis T, working on his comedy act here. Hi, John, and Ray. BetterHelp is such a good service.
They're great.
And I found out my psychiatrist has his own bathroom in the office. I always wondered why I couldn't hear him using it. And then it dawned on me, the P is silent. Yeah, I mean, you got to work on your structure there, Joe. I mean, like Ray liked it, but I didn't.
By the way, BetterHelp, who are not a sponsor this week, but they're one of the sponsors of our show. Guys, seriously, I say this all the time in the promo spots that we do, but we talk about, encourage, and psych each other up about going to the gym and looking after our physical health. We really need, especially as guys, because women seem more open about the stuff. Guys, we seem to be more closed off. Like we're insecure about it too. But we need to get to the point where, especially in the stressful eras that we live in and all that kind of stuff, to encourage each other to look after and celebrate when one of our friends makes the decision to look after their mental health. I think that's important stuff, and that's why I love the work that BetterHelp does, and that's why I love having them as one of the sponsors of our show. All right, thanks for that. What's next?
Audie Hash It Out writes, hey crew, how long do the actors have to be on strike for WB to consider releasing projects like Batgirl? I know it's early and I am thinking worst case, but imagine a year-long strike. Could that result in a desperate enough for WB? No, because it would literally, I feel very confident saying it would literally cost them more money just in the marketing of that movie than it would make at the box office. In a world where Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods only made like $100 and something million, Batgirl is like, it could be one of the first wide release, if they did it, superhero movies that would make under $100 million. And it would only tank the reputation of Warner Brothers even more. Releasing Batgirl will do unimaginable damage because I have been told it is really that bad.
And it all do is just damage the property even more. Maybe you'll make 50 million bucks, which they wouldn't. But maybe you'll make 50 million bucks, but it's probably going to cost you $500 million in the long run from more audiences that you've lost. So no, nothing's going to make them release Batgirl. I mean, maybe someday if James Gunn creates a thriving, healthy, brand new DCU and they get a few years to making a really healthy DCU, maybe they go, you know what, guys? You want to see what kind of bullet we dodged a few years ago? We're going to put Batgirl on Max for you just so you can see just how bad it was. But other than that, I don't think it'll happen. All right, what's next?
Okay, moving to supers. JW writes, after Joker 2, I hope Todd Phillips finally gets around to doing the Hulk Hogan biopic with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Been excited for that one for ages. I didn't know Hemsworth was tied to that.
Oh, dude, we started talking about that back in the movie talk days.
Yeah.
That they confirmed that Chris Hemsworth was going to be Hulk Hogan. And it's like, you know what? That's a pretty good casting.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was ages ago, though. I don't think it's ever going to happen. And now, especially with Chris Hemsworth saying he's going to reduce the amount of acting that he does and all that kind of stuff, I don't know that's ever actually going to happen. But, I mean, if it did, I'm interested. I'd be interested in seeing it. All right, what's next?
Orange Hand writes, do you have a favorite Calvin and Hobbes strip or joke?
Man, that's hard to say. Calvin and Hobbes, I feel very confident saying is, for me, very easily the greatest comic strip of all time. It's the most magical, the most special. And I'll always remember the last one. I mean, first of all, Choco Frosted Sugar Bombs is a part of my daily vocabulary now because of that comic strip. But for me, it ended in a perfect way. Calvin and Hobbes standing on the top of a hill, a snow-covered hill, and they've got their toboggan, and it's just a short strip, and it ends with them jumping on the toboggan and starting to slide down the hill, and Calvin saying, let's go exploring. And that's the end of the strip. After years of running, one of my most favorite possessions I have is a 3 leather-bound set that has every Calvin and Hobbes in it. It's just, it never failed to make me laugh hysterically and feel really warm. It's just the best thing that's ever happened. All right, what's next?
All right. James Welsh writes, I like Princess and the Frog, but the thing I always found weird is that it is set in Jim Crow's South, and Disney just pretended segregation didn't happen. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It's also a story about a magical thing that turns a frog into a prince. I wouldn't look too much into that. All right, what's next?
Fangblaze71 writes, just watched D&D Honor Among Thieves, and it was really good. They did a great job with the world building, all cool spells and effects.
I'll tell you what, as a Dungeons and Dragons fan, I loved it. As a movie fan, I loved it. Mm-hmm. And I loved hearing from people who went to go see it that have never played Dungeons and Dragons. Honestly, every year there's 1 or 2 films that it's a real shame that movie flopped. D&D is that movie this year because it flopped. I mean, it did. Ray, can you look up the total worldwide box office that Dungeons and Dragons made? Yeah. But it wasn't good. It deserved to make so much more. But I think one of the big things was that a lot of people who, let's face it, the vast majority of people are not Dungeons and Dragons players. And so they thought, oh, I won't get the movie, or I'm not into D&D, so it's not my thing, and whatever. And so people just didn't go see it. But they should have. The movie is, again, not going to win any Oscars. Not going to be the
$208 million.
How much?
208.
$208 million. It should have done so much better than that. But don't get me wrong, it's not going to end up in the top 5 movies of the year or something, but it was a charming, wonderful, fun movie. And I really hope Paramount has the foresight to go, look, we should never have expected that the first one would make money. There's just too many things against it. But now that the word got out that it was great and more people are discovering it, maybe it's worth taking a shot. And actually we did a story on this the other week. The head of Paramount said that the idea of a Dungeons and Dragons sequel is not dead, that they could do another one. He said we'd have to make it for a bit of a smaller budget to be more financially responsible, but it could happen. And I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed that they do. All right, what's next?
Fangblaze also writes the action scenes in D&D were amazing as well.
They were really, really good. It was funny. It was charming and it was exciting. All right, what's next?
Alex Von Gollum writes, hi there. One of my favorite scenes in the Snyder's cut was when Soup says, I'm not impressed. Cavill gives a great delivery of the phrase.
Cavill He's the best Superman. My favorite moment, I think, involving Henry Cavill, and it's in both the Snyder cut and in the theatrical cut, is when all the rest of the Justice League start fighting the confused Superman, where he's standing there shirtless and by his own statue, and Flash goes into the Speed Force, right? And he says, I'm going to zip around. And all of a sudden he sees Superman go, and Flash's face is like, and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's what's funny.
I love that moment. You know what my favorite moment is not? I did not that scene I did not like at all. You know what my favorite though?
Just that scene, John, that ruined the whole thing for you.
I didn't say it ruined the movie. I'm saying it was a horrible scene. But you know what? I think overall, the best thing, because I'll be quite frank with you, everybody can say everything they want. They are basically the same movie. One just has extra scenes in it. But to me, the thing about the HBO version of Justice League that to me made a real significant difference was that sequence where Cyborg, he's looking into the digital life of that woman with her apartment and all that kind of stuff. That was a wonderful sequence because it was character development focused. You started to understand, like nothing else gave us insight into Cyborg's heart, into his character. What is he like? How does he think, right? And that sequence, besides just being a beautiful sequence and it was visually very interesting, it was a scene that gave us more character development. That one sequence gave us more character development for Cyborg than the entire rest of the movie. And to me, if I had to pick one thing about the HBO version of the movie that really set it apart from the theatrical version, to me, that's the scene. Like that was just a terrific, terrific sequence. All right, what's next?
The cinema rights went to Regal Mystery Showing. It was Retribution with Liam Neeson. Literally nothing gets resolved at the end. And I don't mean it was an ambiguous ending. It just stops. People in the theater laughed.
I mean, look, the reality is this, and Liam Neeson himself has joked about this a little. All these Liam Neeson movies, they're all the same. Let me push this up. Neeson IMDb.
Neesons.
I'm going to read off the Liam Neeson's, one of the great Key and Peele sketches. Let's read off a bunch of movies he's got. Okay, so why does it go all the way back to 20? Yeah, there we go. Marlowe, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, so Memory, Blacklight, The Ice Road, The Marksman, Honest Thief, Maiden. I mean, really, ultimately, these are all really kind of the same movie.
I didn't even know those were made.
They're all extensions of his, what's the one where he says I have a certain set of skills?
Taken.
Taken
They're
was
all
what started
extensions of his Taken character in one way or the other. I'm not familiar with Ordinary Love, but then we get down into, I want to get down into Cold Pursuit. Widows was actually, that was a very different kind of movie. He's not the main lead in that, but that's actually a really good movie, to be honest with you. Yeah, a lot of these things, Silence, a lot of these movies he's done last time is you're all kind of same, and that just kind of sounds like the same thing. Again, I'm not familiar with it, but it just kind of sounds like the same. All right, what's next?
We've got went to the Regal Mystery Showing. Oh no, we just
did that. Yep.
Jedi Master. Have you guys heard about Michael Oher's lawsuit against the adoptive family? I'm really disappointed in the film. The Blind Side was based on a lie. Well, it's not the filmmaker's fault. They thought that was the truth.
Yeah. So, well, I'll be honest with you. So for those of you who don't know what's going on, the Academy Award winning film, The Blind Side, right? The true story of this family where played by Speed Girl, Sandra Bullock, brings in their home, adopts this kid, and he goes on to become an NFL star, right? Well, that dude is now saying that was all made up, that that family tricked me into signing the conservatorship, and I never really there was never really their kid, and this is all kind of made up. Look, okay, now look, I have not done a bunch of research into this, but all I'm saying is, and I need to go back because I could be wrong about this, all right? So I'm giving this big asterisk here, but I remember when that movie was coming out, and that dude was out there promoting that movie, that player.
Carpet.
He was out there talking up the movie and hyping up the movie and promoting the film and now he's saying all this different stuff. Look, again, I need to look into it more because maybe if I do, I'll have a completely different thing. But where my head is at right now, it's like if that movie was based on a lie, it was every much your lie as everybody else's. Because I remember you being out there pumping and promoting and talking about the authenticity of the film and all this kind of stuff. And you weren't a kid when that was happening. You were a full-grown NFL playing man.
I just want to point out that John's talking to you, Mr. Orr, not me, because you are a really big dude. So
No, and again, maybe I'll look into it and I'll read some more details. But again, I'm just sitting there. I'm reading that story. It's like, I'm not crazy. I remember him being out there pushing and promoting this movie and telling this story.
I'm pretty sure I saw him on a late night show too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, for
100%.
sure. Like they wouldn't have like an incredible story like this and no one try to research it.
So I don't know what this is. I honestly don't know what it's about. I don't know what the whole thing is there, but I don't know. Hopefully it gets resolved.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Fangblaze writes, which of the MCU shows were you most disappointed by? Personally, mine was Hawkeye. I like Kate, but wish it was more about Clint. I didn't like Kate. I thought she was bumbling.
I didn't like Kate much either.
She made the same mistakes over and over.
She started to grow. I'll admit, there were moments she started to grow on me a little bit, but I wasn't super disappointed in Hawkeye because I didn't expect much from Hawkeye, and it delivered exactly what I thought it would deliver. Not much. I'd say the one I was probably most disappointed by was Moon Knight. Because I got very, very excited about that. And it started off real strong. A lot of these MCU shows start really strong. Even She-Hulk. Started strong. But I think that to me is probably my biggest disappointment one, is that one. All right, what's next?
John Redcorn writes, saw in Variety that both Indy 5 and MI7 are flops that are going to lose about $100 million for their studios. I hope this doesn't affect MI8.
It's not going to affect MI8 in the least. Not in the least. And by the way, it's still making money at the box office. It's already crossed $520 million at the box office. It's an expensive film. The pandemic made it a really expensive film because they spent tons of money on making sure that movie got finished, getting made during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to affect MI8 at all. It might, if they were already talking about MI9, it might be stalling MI9 discussions, but MI8 is definitely going to happen uninterrupted. No problems with that. All right, what's next?
Fangblaze writes, I'm not in love with Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I'm not in love from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is still my favorite movie opening. Okay. It's still my favorite movie opening song of all time. It's just so good. What's your favorite?
In a movie? Because, yeah, come and get your love.
Was that the opening song for Guardians?
It's the Redbone song.
Yeah, boom, 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 boom. I mean, that song is great. It's such a great, and I love that they ended Guardians 3 with it. I mean, it was kind of a perfect full circle moment. Favorite opening song in a movie? I would have to sit and think about it. I mean, for a TV show, it's Peacemaker. But for a movie, I can't think of it. It's something I'd have to actually sit down and think about. But that's a really good one. All right, what's next?
All right. King Daddy Goat writes, will you be checking out House of Usher? Flanagan's is fire.
Probably not. I don't know anything about. I don't know. I've heard people mention House of Usher.
Is it about Usher?
No.
Oh.
I've never even seen a trailer. I haven't seen a poster. I don't know anything about the movie or show. I don't even know if it's a show or a movie. But I have, but probably not going to check it out. Hey, listen, guys, we're going to finish off and get through all the rest of the questions that we have. But before we do, we're going to take a moment here and thank another sponsor of today's episode of our show, our friends, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode. All right, guys, let's get back and finish off the questions you got here for us, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up next?
Joe Adonis writes, hi, John, and Ray. Someone, I think it's someone.
Simone?
Oh, Simone. Yeah. That movie is 2 decades now and could become a reality unless SAG-AFTRA and WGA can't stop it. What did you think of that movie?
Not much. I said, wait, is it really that old? It can't be that old.
What movie are we talking about?
It's
2002.
I don't even.
Is
know
it
what
really
that movie is.
2002?
I don't even know what that movie is. To be honest.
A whole second. It can't be 2002.
Where they like recreate the actress or whatever?
Yeah, Catherine Keener,
2000
was it Al Pacino?
Looking it up. It is Al Pacino, Catherine Keener, Rachel. Yeah. That's 2002.
Yeah, it's so the basically this dude creates a virtual actress. Right? And stuff. On a side note, but connected to this, it's from the reports that we're getting out of the talks between the AMPTP and the WGA, it sounds like the AMPTP is willing to give concessions on the AI stuff, that AI is never allowed to get credit, that only human writers can get credit on something. So even if a studio uses AI to write something, a human writer is going to get credit and get paid for it and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that kind of thing. So I think if they're going to make those concessions to the writers, I think they're ready to give those concessions to the actors as well. If that's true or not, we'll find out soon. I cannot believe that movie is 20 years old.
That's crazy.
I can't.
21 years old. He can drink.
That's a mad movie. Well, in Canada, could have drank a couple of years ago.
That's true. But it cost it more.
Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy. I would have thought that would have been during the AMC Movie Talk days, but it was probably even before I started the movie blog.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Oh my
remember
God. Doesn't feel that long ago. Anyway, okay, what's next?
Murray Reich writes, I personally feel if a story is 6 episodes or a story in 6 episodes can be told in 2.5-hour movie, then just make it a movie instead. 30-minute episodes are a joke.
I agree. I just, look, I'm not old-fashioned in many ways, but when it comes to television, I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I like 20-episode seasons. The greatest television shows of all time had big, long, were 20-episode seasons, 22-episode seasons.
They can become a marathon to get through, though.
Sure.
As much as I love, what is it, the blue meth, Breaking Bad. There were some seasons where I was like, man, I have to get through all of this, and they're an hour long.
But we got to remember, though, they came out in an era when you watched 1 episode a week, right? Like you watched the shows when they came out, and you could always count on for almost half the year that I could go and watch this episode of my favorite show. Anyway, but we live in a different reality now, and I accept that. But 6 episodes is way too short.
Yeah.
If you're going to be 6 episodes, make them hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes each. Otherwise, Obi-Wan is a great example of this. That show, an editor came and took that movie, or took the entirety of Obi-Wan and edited it into a 2.5-hour movie that, without any hyperbole, is vastly superior to the Obi-Wan TV series. They took some things out. Well, they took a bunch of stuff out. They moved some things around. They added a couple little things here and there. And they made a movie version of Obi-Wan that was infinitely better than the show was. Yes, these little stupid 6-episode things, just make it as a movie then. It'll be tighter, leaner, faster, more satisfying than you just trying to drag a story out that you don't have enough story there to make a TV series out of. Otherwise, they started off WandaVision was what, 9 episodes? 10 episodes?
I believe it's 9.
Why would get back to that? Anyway, all right. What's next?
Jason Weeby writes, Jason from London, Ontario here.
Oh, nice. I love London, Ontario.
When do you think we will be seeing White Version next?
Probably
White Vision next.
Vision.
And as there seems to be an untold story left over from WandaVision.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know that we're ever going to see him again. I really don't. I used to think, well, that's a clear setup for something he's going to be doing really soon. Maybe Secret Invasion?
I thought they were setting up like West Coast Avengers. Something like that.
Yeah, I never thought they were doing West Coast. Like, everybody swore that by 2022, we were going to have Young Avengers.
Yeah.
We were going to have West Coast Avengers. We're going to have all this kind of stuff. I've never believed that. They still could do it. They still could. I still don't believe that they are or that they should.
Well,
but
I mean, if they were introducing so many young characters, even Ironheart, it would be hard not to think that they were going to put them all together.
I
With
never
Kate
did.
Bishop and then...
That's another one I'm not looking forward to. Ironheart.
I don't even think it's coming out anymore.
Oh,
Everything's
it's
on
already.
hold.
I think it's already shot.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's done. The thing is, though, it not as bad, but Ironheart is suffering a little bit of what Echo was, where I was interested in an Ironheart series until I saw Ironheart in the Black Panther movie. I was interested in them doing a series about Echo, and then I saw Hawkeye with Echo in it, and seeing Echo in Hawkeye lessened my enthusiasm for it. I don't know if I'm interested in a show about that character now, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Remy Alestra writes, with streaming, I think they should adopt YouTube's freemium model. That way, free movies and TV shows can have ads, which would help a bit with residuals.
I'm not quite sure what you're referencing there.
I mean, I don't know. Like, you're saying like free, but ad, backed or something.
Does YouTube have some movies and TV shows anybody can just watch with ads in
Well,
there?
you know what? Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they
Now
do.
that I think
They
about
all
it.
say free.
They're not necessarily movies you want to watch, but
Yeah.
yes, they do.
Yeah, I just don't know if the model can work, but who knows? Maybe.
They'll figure
All right,
it out.
what's next?
Robert Pruser writes, hoping Wanda and Phoenix Jean fight in Deadpool 3.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That would be
I don't
cool,
think
though.
we're going to, I'm honestly not sure that we're ever going to see Elizabeth Olsen back again. When Scarlet Witch died, quote unquote, died in Doctor Strange 2, we all thought, well, I mean, she's going to be back. I thought that too, but there's more time's gone on and I've seen more interviews with her. I'm like, you know what? I think she's actually done.
Yeah.
I think she might actually be done in there. So I don't know if we're going to see that.
Yeah,
And
and
I
also
don't
I'm-
think we're going to see a Phoenix Jean Grey
Nah.
fight in Deadpool 3.
This is becoming Multiverse of Madness, where everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to see this in Deadpool 3, and we're going to see this in Deadpool 3."
Yeah, and to its credit, like Multiverse of Madness, we are going to see a bunch of
we're
stuff.
going to see a bunch of stuff, but not every little
but, like,
thing.
all the theories coming out right now
Yeah.
they're getting wilder and wilder. All right, what's next?
Curtis Spriggs writes, "Good afternoon, crew. Curious if any of you have seen the unreleased Blue Beetle TV show test footage from 2010. You in particular, Ray.
I am completely unfamiliar with this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that a real thing? Does that really
Maybe
exist?
it was meant to be a TV show in 2010. I'll have to look it up.
I remember they were going to do a Wonder Woman TV show.
Yeah.
And how do you pronounce her name? Adrian Padalecki?
Oh, yeah.
The one who's the lead girl in Orville, the Orville.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
And she was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too.
Oh,
yeah, they did
boy.
a pilot.
Oh, wow.
Oh boy, I
Wow.
saw that cosplayed at SDCC.
That's worse than the Black Lightning costume.
That's test footage from the...
Oh, there's some animated stuff too that he's been in, but I've never seen.
Oh,
his
yeah,
cartoon.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
The
Blue Beetle's
animated
been a lot of animated stuff, but that's from an actual live action TV show they tried to pilot.
Gotta watch
2010,
the
come
Blue
on.
Beetle TV show.
2010.
Young Justice.
What were we watching in 2010?
Oh,
Okay,
Young
keep
Justice.
this image up.
Okay.
For everybody who always tries to say practical costumes are always better than CGI, I present this. No, it's not. Practical costumes are not always better than CGI.
A little more there.
Heck yeah, man.
Oh, so this was obviously the Ted Cord version
And
of
then, like this kind of thing,
Heck yeah.
but
Man, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
All right, what's next?
All right, well, thanks for that little nugget there. Remy Alestra writes, I still think that Marvel needs to take a step back. It's not genre that may have experienced fatigue, as you say, John, but Marvel's fatigued and needs a break since they peaked with Endgame.
No, I don't agree. They've just made bad movies. They're no, it's just that their quality has dropped. There is no such thing as comic book movie fatigue. There is only mediocrity fatigue. And I don't get why some people think it's just some wild coincidence that at the same time that Marvel's quality is dropping, that just so happens when people start losing interest. People are losing interest because of the drop in quality. They went 12 years of delivering great projects and 12 years without anybody losing interest. It's not a coincidence that people are losing interest as the quality is dropping. Of course it is. But they do need to cut back. I don't think at all they need to take a break. No, that's nonsense. Nonsense. They don't need to take a break. They do need to cut back because they need to increase the quality of their product again. And until they increase the quality of their product, they're going to see a decline in their returns. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. All right, what's next?
Okay, we've got Lavartov who writes, the Rotten Tomato score for Tenet was set at 69%. However, in inverted time, the score is 96%. It's the score that it needed to be. I love it.
Man, Tenet is such a... I think that's going to be the movie when people talk about Christopher Nolan moving forward, like 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It's always going to be about the magnificent career, blah, blah, blah. But let's talk about Tenet. I think that's the one that's always going to come up. It's the one film where even though I enjoyed the film, I like Tenet, but it's a movie where Christopher Nolan sometimes fails to put himself in the audience's seat. He's often got these wild, incredible, wide-ranging ideas and concepts, but sometimes doesn't pause to say, will this flow properly to the audience? Will this communicate these ideas that I have in my head? Am I communicating these properly to the audience? That is good in a way that is going to bring the audience along. And I think sometimes, and I think there was even a little bit of it in Interstellar and a little bit of it in Inception. Sometimes I think he struggles with that a bit. Tenet is the poster child for that. Oppenheimer, I feel like he did a massive course correction. Well, Oppenheimer and the World War II movie, Dunkirk, there was a massive correction on that because even though he time skips around a lot in Oppenheimer, it's told the narrative flows so easily and so naturally. But I think a lot of people are going to look back at Tenet and go, what was he doing there a little bit? I don't know. This is part of it. All right, what's next?
Oh, that was it.
That was it?
Yep.
All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and spending some time with us here today. Don't forget, we're going to be back again and doing it all again tomorrow, and we hope that you will join us for that as well. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Yep.
Jonathan Voico.
See ya.
Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it. And all of us here express our deepest gratitude for that support. My name's John Campea, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.
Bye.